Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you guys about how to not let depression overtake you. So guys, here, I'm not going to talk about what depression is. I'm not going to argue whether it's a byproduct of genetics or it's caused by different events that occur in your life that you deem as negative, or maybe it's your diet and exercise. But I think we can all agree on the fact that depression is a state where you're not fully expressing yourself, right? You're in a depressed. When you're expressive, or when you're fully expressive via your creativity, via your, you're expressing yourself physically in the form of love with your women, or you're exercising to your highest potential. You're expressing yourself physically in the gym or in your martial art, whatever. We can all agree that depression is not that, right? It's like a contracted state where your mind is contracted, where your body's contracted, and your thoughts are contracted. You feel tense, you feel low, you feel down, right? So a lot of people they say, oh, I have depression, right? And then they go take Prozac, they go take those medications, right? And a lot of people they see their depression as like almost like an identity, meaning like, oh, it's like I have depression, right? And they use that as, and it's like the same thing with ADHD. And like I said, you can have like ADHD where you can't focus. Yes, you may have depression to where there's times where you feel low. But the problem is that whether it's due to genetics, whether it's due to your diet, your exercise routine, or just things that happen, you can't let depression just like overtake you and infiltrate your life. Meaning like, you still have to do what you have to do in your work, whether it's taking care of your health. Like you still have to live, you still have to do what you have to do every single day, whether you claim you're a depressed person or not. But realistically, guys, I can speak on this because like there's been times where, like I said, I would say the most depressed I was back in like 2019 when I was in college. I didn't have my car, I didn't have a job, I was lonely, I was bored, I didn't want to be there. I really wasn't trying to really be in college at all. I hated it. I hated going to the classes. I hated studying. And it's funny, on a little side note here, but when I dropped out, I basically I didn't even like finish the semester. Like it was like the first semester of sophomore year is when I dropped out. I got all the way up until like when finals were due, and I just stopped. Like all the finals, like it was funny. Like I did all the assignments leading up to like mid-November, and once like mid-November hit, I just said, you know what, man? Because like, you know how at the end of like the semester, like all the finals are due, meaning like for your 6 classes, like you have 6 different essays or 6 different like projects. And it's like, dude, like I was so like fed up at that point when to the point where I was just like, yo, I really don't care. So, I really was down for years. Right. And, in that time, that 1.5 year or whatever, year and a half or so, I would say I was depressed. Right. But here's the thing. Let me say this also. I feel like during that time frame, I did bullshit myself to a large degree. Meaning like there were times where, like I said, I would just be wallowing in loneliness, and I would, like I said, my diet was horrible. I was, releasing watching the websites like 2 to 3 times a day. I was like I said, I didn't have a job. I didn't have a girlfriend. I was just kind of like sitting there doing nothing. And every time I would relapse, or every time I would like eat junk food, or every time like I would play video games, I would just always feel that sense of shame, that sense of guilt, and that sense of like, that sense of doubt. And like, I would always question like, damn, like, am I ever going to get out of this? Oh my God, poor me. I can't believe I'm dealing with this. This is terrible. I don't know how I can solve this. This is a problem, right? And, to an extent, to the degree that I continue to overthink about it and try to analyze it and justify why I was doing what I was doing, and to the degree that I was just, like I said, steeped in that in that depression, right? And never really like just let it pass, was to the degree that it went on. So like I said, some people have an identity with depression because maybe that's all they've ever experienced, or maybe that's something that they just, like I said, maybe they're born with a chemical imbalance. Maybe they're born with a genetic predisposition to it. But at the end of the day, guys, I can tell you this. There are times where I get depressed now, and they'll be like, I'm not depressed every day, but there'll be times where I'm just like, man, I'm just feeling like life's dull. Like everything, guys, depression doesn't necessarily have to mean like you're doing things wrong. It doesn't mean like maybe your diet's off or your life's, in shambles. But there's times where I just feel low. I just feel like, hey man, sometimes life's dull. Sometimes I just don't have the motivation to get up and do things. Or maybe, I'm going through some difficulty at work, or, there's troubles in my relationship, whatever. But it's up to me to get out of it. And that's the thing. Most people don't want to take accountability for it, and they want to take on an identity. And then now that's when they become dependent on medication, because their identity, they're so identified with the depression that they feel like that's who they are, and them dealing with it is, it's like, hey, I'm going to get this medication and this is just who I am, right? But realistically, the way you have to look at it to really not let it, like I said, screw your whole life up, is you have to look at it as something like it's just passing. Like there's days where, hey man, if life's dull, if you're tired or you're stressed or whatever, and you feel depressed or you feel tired or you're fatigued, it's just gonna pass, right? It's just gonna pass. It's just gonna pass, right? And like I said, I'm not trying to say that people have different issues, with, like I said, a chemical imbalance, genetics or whatever, but you can't let it, like, when you start going on for weeks and months and years, and you just start like wallowing and woe is me, and I feel so sad, I'm tired, and you just sit and you sit and you sit and you sit and you don't do anything about it, that's when you let it get to you, and that's when you let it like screw your whole life over. And that's really what I would say like the negative force or the devil wants, is the devil wants you to just be in consistent self-doubt, consistent like apathy and dullness, and like have just like a nihilistic view on the world. Like if you're constantly just suppressed, if you're constantly just unable to get out of that so-called depression that you label, then you're not going to be able to like advance. And that's the problem, is that like so many people that claim they're depressed, it's like they're just identifying with it, and as a byproduct of them identifying with that, they can't seem to build momentum in their life. So that's the thing you don't want to do. It's normal to feel down at times. It's normal to not necessarily feel up to par every single day or of every single week of every single month. But when you just sit there and you don't do anything, like for example, I use this example a lot, but let's say like you're addicted to porn, right? And you just can't stop relapsing. Well, the thing you don't want to do, right? And this is kind of similar to depression, is you don't want to just like, let's say you relapse, right? You don't want to just sit there in your bed for the next 4 hours and just, continue to, like feel sorry for yourself. And then 2 to 3 hours later, you relapse again. Like your whole goal, it's not to escape the depression, but your whole goal is to change your state. Like in Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant Within, he talks about depression or not feeling great. And he said to get out of like that depressive state or that anxious state, you have to change your state. So he says, I think there's like one example, like if you're feeling low, just smile like this. And if he said, like, I even feel better right now just smiling like this, right? It may sound like kind of cringy or whatever, but it works. And like, for example, what is another example of changing your state? Going for a walk, you're getting your blood flowing, you're getting the endorphins, you're getting the dopamine, right? So like I said, it's all about you being proactive. I think people that identify with depression are generally lazy people, right? They're generally just, it's like a victim mentality. It's like, this is just what I have and I can't seem to get out of it. So like I said, that's when they just want to be dependent on medication, and that's why their life just continues to be in shambles. So like I said, you can either let depression like build you and or just, you know, be something very minimal, or you can let it, like I said, be something you identify with and let it just completely destroy your life and run the show, which I'm sure none of you guys want. And like I said, you don't have to let it happen. So yeah, that's it. That's all, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, please make sure to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, leave them down below. And as always, I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.